Hello everyone, my name is Roya and this is my April wrap-up. So April was read self-published as well, and so I tried to make as many of the books I read self-published books, but unfortunately I really did not get to as many of the self-published books that I was hoping to. But I did start two self-published series and finished one of them, and that is great because my TBR challenge was also to start a series, and so I met that twofold and actually finished one of them. First, I read the Penryn and the End of Days trilogy by Susan E., and this is a really entertaining series about a world where an angel apocalypse has happened and the world has been taken over by angels, and all the humans are kind of just trying to survive and living off of cat food and whatever else. And so basically the main character is a girl named Penryn who is trying to save her little sister who got kidnapped by angels. She joins forces with a fallen angel in order to sneak into the angel's hideout, find her sister, etc., etc. So that's what happens in the first book. The rest of it, it kind of changes focus a little bit, but not really, because it's still like each book takes place immediately after the previous one left off. I really liked the first one the best. I thought that the second one kind of suffered from middle trilogy book syndrome in that it was a lot more fillery. But the third one was also a little bit fillery as well, and the ending was really awesome, but it also didn't tie up as many of the loose ends as I was hoping it would. But this was a really good series, and I highly recommend it. There is actually one really weird plot hole that I thought was kind of weird that I didn't mention in my Genrethon wrap-up when I kind of talked about this series, and that is the fact that somehow they still use money in this world, and I'm not sure why. So basically, like, there's a part in this book where Penryn gets into a huge fist fight with this dude, and everyone starts crowding around and taking bets all of a sudden. And it turns out that that's just what they do at that place. Like, whenever there's a fight, everyone just, like, takes bets on it. And I just don't really get that, because it's literally, people are eating, like, moldy stuff and cat food in order to survive. Like, why is there still money? And why are people trading in, like, angel feathers and stuff like that for money when clearly it's an apocalypse and everyone's dead? It doesn't make any sense. But besides that, this series was super good. Next, I read the first two books in the Air Awakens series, Air Awakens and Fire Falling. This is a fantasy series about a girl named Vala who finds out that she is a sorcerer, and sorcerers in this world, basically depending on what region they're from, control one of the elements, pretty much. And it turns out that Vala is the first Windwalker to be born in like 100 years. So I thought that the first half of the first book was a little bit boring because it's literally just about, oh no, I'm a sorcerer, hey, let me find out the kind of stuff I can do, blah blah blah. But then the second half of the first book really picked up, and it was amazing, and it was really suspenseful, because she's like getting blamed for all this crap happening once everyone like finds out that she's a sorcerer, etc, etc, etc. But in this one, only the very beginning was a little bit slow, and the rest of it was so good. And I also just love the two main characters as a couple, like their dynamic and everything is so good. Whereas I felt like in the first book that wasn't necessarily the case. I was kind of just like, wow, he's a douche. But really in this one, he's like super awesome, and so is she. Like, she gets so much more badass in this book, and she turns out to be an awesome character. Fourth book of that just came out, so maybe this month I'll get to read the third and fourth books, because they are going to be amazing, I can just tell. So the rest of the books that I read this month were not self-published, but that's really okay because they were still really good, and I had my reasons for choosing those books instead of self-published ones. First, I won a audiobook of Some Kind of Courage by Daniel Meinhardt over a giveaway that the author did on his Twitter, and I am really amazed that I actually won this because I never win giveaways. That was really awesome. So basically, this is the first time I listened to an audiobook since like middle school, and it was perfect timing because I actually just started driving again after like 5 years of not so much as getting behind the wheel of a car ever. So it's really awesome to actually be able to like listen to books in my car. But this is a Wild West type story about an orphan 13-year-old named Joseph who, his horse, that was his family's horse before they died and everything, gets sold by the man who he's staying with. And so he goes, hey, wait a minute. What the hell? That was my horse. I'm going to take the money you got from selling her, and I'm going to chase, like, that dude, find out where the hell he went, and buy her back, because that is my horse, man. So he goes off, he goes on this crazy, crazy adventure, full of, like, suspenseful craziness, and there were just so many parts in this book where I was listening to it and I was going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, please don't die, please don't die. Like, that, like, basically, Please Don't Die is, like, this book. Like, if I have to sum it up in 3 words, please don't die. It was a really good coming-of-age story. He also meets this Chinese kid who's like a little bit younger than him, I think, who doesn't speak English, and so they don't speak each other's languages at all, and yet they, like, are journeying together for probably most of this book, and even though they don't understand each other, they know that each other are looking for something, so they become really close, even though they don't understand, like, a word of what each other said. It was a really good book. I absolutely loved it, and I don't know what the hell I was expecting. I mean, I knew this was a new release, but I didn't really, like, know that much about what it was about, or even really what genre it fell into, besides being young adult, basically. Like, I didn't really know about, and also one thing that's really good, too, is just how much research was done. You can tell that a lot of research was done on the time period and everything. Like, I almost thought, goodness gracious, like, the author must have gone back in time and, like, lived in the Wild West or something, because he seems to know so much stuff about what things costed back then, and basically this was just such a well done book, and so fun to read or listen to. Haha. So here's a book that I talked about in both my genreathon wrap up, I can't talk, and my book haul, but this is Crazy for Cornelia by Chris Gilson, and so I went in way more in depth into it in my genreathon wrap up. I'll link that down below. But basically, this is a book about an artist working as a doorman in a rich person's apartment building. He meets a rich girl there, and basically, at first, he, like, judges her and everything, but then, in the last, like, third of the book, they fall in love, which is kind of weird, but, and, like, she's crazy and obsessed with Nikola Tesla and all this craziness, and she's building a Tesla museum that nobody knows about. So this was a really odd book, but it is the kind of thing where if it were a movie, it would be an awful movie, because there's no way to, like, there's just no way around that, pretty much. But it was a really entertaining book. I read it right after reading the second Angel Fall book, and because I really wanted something light and happy, because those books are so disturbing. It ended up being, like, the perfect thing to read after reading something that's, like, really sad and serious and disturbing. I really don't know who I recommend this to, because it's so odd. So I guess if you're just, like, if you've just been watching too many scary movies or reading too many sad books or something, like, this is a good book for you. I read Lita Ford's biography, Living Like a Runaway, and this was a great book. Lita Ford's life is extremely sad, I swear. It's such a good biography. Like, it documents everything from her, like, childhood, growing up being in the first all-girl band ever, and then all the way up to pretty much now, like, all the stuff she did as a solo artist, etc., etc. And it's just so weird to think about the fact that women did not play rock music back then, pretty much. Like, it just wasn't a thing. that occurred to girls to do, I guess, which is just really odd because now there are tons of women playing rock music all over the freaking place. So I don't know, it's really odd, but I loved this book. I had a really awesome time reading it. Now, if only Joan Jett would write a biography, but I doubt she will because she's Joan Jett. So, yeah. And finally, the first book that I read this month, actually, because I only had a little bit of it left to go, and that is Voyager by Diana Gabaldon. And this is the third book in the Outlander series. It's really different. I think each book in the series is so different so far. The first one is definitely still my favorite by far, but this one was still really good. It had a lot of the same witty dialogue, even though we have like all new characters on. So these are the books that I read in April. I read 9 books total, and that is pretty awesome, so I'm still ahead of my goal. Let me know what you read this month, and if you've read any of these, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye!